Two areas of religious freedom could be threatened by these anticipated amendments. One is the provision of services, so hiring of facilities, offering of care to people in the public. The second is employment, the right of churches to employ people according to a religious test or some kind of ethical test. For example, the right of a church to have a Christian receptionist could be challenged by these changes. People are looking for a way to increase equality, and they think that to do that you need to reduce religious freedom, reduce exceptions to equality requirements. And they're looking for some way to understand religious freedom better. One of the ideas they've come up with is to say there's certain core things that religious people do that really need protection and peripheral things that don't. And peripheral things would be basically anything that has a public nature, anything to do with interacting with the public, schools, social justice agency, caring for the poor, hospitals. And the suggestion is that as long as Christians in a way come out of the church, then they don't really need religious freedom. So there's this idea that if you privatise your activity, if religion is private, there's an idea that if religion is private, freedom should be protected. But as soon as you're in the public domain, you can't have freedom of conscience applying. And that's a bad mistake. Christians have always engaged in the public arena as an expression of their faith. In fact, the scriptures say that if you don't care for the poor, if you don't pursue justice, then your worship, what you do in the church, is really irrelevant to God. God really hates it if you're not doing the right thing in the public area. What you do in the church is just hypocrisy. So you can't divide private from public functions when you're dealing with religion. It doesn't work. Section 77 allows a person not to provide a service, or perhaps allows them to discriminate in employment if they have a personal religious objection, an issue of conscience. These matters affect the provision of services, and they've been causing Christians in other countries to lose their jobs or be suspended or be unable to function. One example recently is that a registrar in the city of Islington in London has been suspended from her job in registering marriages because on religious conscience grounds she feels unable to register civil unions between gays. And as a result of that, the city council has forced her to become a receptionist. They won't let her work. She said there are plenty of other registrars who can do the 8% of civil unions. They don't actually need her to do that to provide the service, but her employer has said she has to provide the service to everyone or none at all. So she's been discriminated against. Her union won't defend her. So that clause really gives some leverage for people who could provide a very valuable service in a company or in employment in some way, but have an issue of conscience about particular aspects and would like to exercise that without causing any harm to the service that's offered. Every organisation that receives government money is going to come under greater pressure. First will be the hospitals and public and social service agencies, and schools are also under pressure as well. I think the risk for that is that Christians might have to withdraw from huge areas of serving the public. It's ironical that these are areas where originally it was only the Christians that were providing the services, and now the state sees its responsibilities in those areas, so there's almost a process to push Christians out of that altogether. I believe that it helps the public to have churches and other religious groups providing services to the public, that when they do that they get a lot of volunteer support, which is a great benefit. The result of that trend will be to make services provided to the public more expensive. They'll make them more commercial and less humane, less human in the way they interact with people. I don't think the public wants, for example, Cabrini palliative care just run on a secular for-profit basis. They value the Christian ethos and the contribution that faith has made to services like that. So really, I don't think, apart from a a small number of people that are pushing this. I don't think the public really wants that. So I suggest that those agencies and people involved in education and healthcare should stand up and say, no, we're making a good contribution to the public. The fact that we're Christian actually helps people. It's part of the social capital of our society that people of faith are involved in providing services to the public. One of the things that people have asked for is that religious groups would have to justify their exemptions. And basically, the idea is that where there's a doctrinal reason for an exemption to be needed, they'll have to make that reasonable. So the effect of that will be that tribunals and courts will have to pass judgment on whether the exemptions that the religious groups are claiming are reasonable exemptions. So they'll have to make rulings on whether your religious beliefs are reasonable or whether you're applying them in a reasonable way. We've seen what happened in the case of the Catch the Fire versus the Islamic Council of Victoria case, when a judge attempted to make rulings on what was or was not religious teachings. And it's our courts, our tribunals are completely ill-equipped to make rulings on reasonableness with regards to religious beliefs. And in fact, some would say that people should have the freedom to hold unreasonable religious beliefs. That's in a way the nature of conscience and religious belief. So I think there's a great danger I believe there's a great danger if courts are asked to make rulings in that area. Another thing to be wary of is that if the bar is lowered and religious groups really have a much lower set of exemptions, there certainly will be members of the community that will be after them. People will be activists, they'll take their cases to court. You'll see certain groups in the community wanting to take Christians to court to shut down their operations. It's already happening in the UK. It's happening in the US. Example, someone was offering an internet dating service for Christians, and some gay people took this person to court and they won their case, and he had to offer a dating service for gay people in addition to those for heterosexual couples, and had to pay a lot of money. So anyone involved in offering services to the public that could come under these sorts of pressures needs to watch out, because there are quite a lot of legal risks for them if we go down this track. Well, this challenge to religious freedom is both an immediate one. This is a watershed issue for Australia. This is the first state that's seriously considering winding back the religious freedom exemptions. But it's also going to be an ongoing challenge. That is, the pressures that are arising in the UK and elsewhere around the world have been building for a long time, and it's going to require vigilance in the years to come to hold the line if we want to keep the degree of religious freedom that we have at present.